Hey, Sean. I'm working on shortening my preamble to these videos, so with any drone video we have to talk about safety, and we're limiting it today to don't fly over people, and that includes moving cars. These are 5 shots that I use when I'm getting drone footage for my own projects or when I'm hired by someone else to provide drone footage. These are 5 shots that provide a good context for the subject of the video and really add some motion and tend to draw the viewers in a little bit more than maybe some more standard drone moves. And before you do any of these 5 moves, you always want to have a flight plan so that you know you're getting these 5 moves in this order, and it helps you be organized in the air and be safer. And 2, even on these wide shots of a city or something like that, you want to have a subject. You want to have a focal point that you're framing thoughtfully. This first move is moving forward while you're tilting your camera up. And you should be moving forward high enough where you can sort of see some context of what's on the ground, and you're going to pan up past a bunch of it, but at the end of your shot, that subject that you're trying to frame, you should have been thinking about it the whole time, and when you finish the move and you slow that gimbal down so that it's resting right on the horizon like you want it to, your subject is perfectly framed up just the way you want. And so these are simple moves, and this is what we're going to focus on. So at the end of these moves, you should see one of these subjects and your eye should be drawn to it, and you should have some context for what it is and where it is. If you're not trying to do a reveal and you're just trying to sort of keep your focus, my favorite move of all of these is move 2, and that is to circle something. And there's 2 ways to do it with most drones. You can do it manually, or you can do it with the actual software of your drone. A lot of times we'll have a function where you can pick a waypoint and it'll automatically circle around while keeping the camera pointed right at it. And that's what I did here while filming myself. I was in this big field and I was just having it rotate around me. It does a fantastic job. But these shots of the mental health building, I did manually. And the key to getting good, smooth manual tracking shots like this is adjusting your EXP settings, which I've talked about in another video, but it really lets you feather the controls a lot more carefully and gently and more controlled than you can potentially with the default settings, the way that these drones come. But pick your focal point, and for me, I love putting it not in the center of the frame, but use that rule of thirds, set it aside. And what this shot does is it shows both depth in the foreground and the background while keeping your subject static in the frame, and it can be really, really powerful because of that. The third shot is another reveal shot, but this time, instead of using the whole city as a context or something from really high up where you're tilting up, we're picking something to obscure the frame and we're lifting past it to reveal the subject. This could be buildings, it could be trees, it could be anything, a billboard, anything that you want to put right in front of the camera, and you just lift over that to reveal the subject of your shot. And when done right, it can be a really, really cool context to put your subject in, where you're putting focus on that foreground element that you're then lifting past to reveal the subject. Fourth, on the subject of lifting, one of my favorite shots, which you can't overuse a shot like this, but it is a fun one, and if you're flying for someone else for hire and you don't often get to do that, throwing in a shot like this usually pleases clients, but it's just lifting straight up while rotating, and it gives this sort of dizzying effect of you're not having that same solid frame that you keep on most of these other shots where you're really focusing the subject in that same way, but instead you're just swirling around and around, and if you add some height to that as you do it, it can be a pretty cool effect, and I always get compliments on this kind of shot when I shoot for hire. And lastly, while drones can go super high in the air and do things that no other camera can, one of the things that I think people overlook is the ability to keep it sort of low, and one of my favorite low shots to do is a perfect sideways track. And especially along roads and stuff, and because you can't fly over roads with moving cars on them, getting just off the side of the road and tracking a vehicle, I think is a really, really powerful shot, and it's something that you don't often get to see, especially from these lower angles, unless you've got a process trailer there in the street with the car. You're either up very high or you're on a ground camera, and so going in that middle ground of not too high up, maybe 10-12 feet off the ground or even lower, you can get some really, really cool shots, especially from the other side of a tree line potentially that's going along the side of the road. But this is one of my favorite shots, and if you don't have control of the car, sometimes you can wait quite a long time for the perfect car to come by where you catch it at just the right spot in your frame, but it typically ends up being worth it and adds a pretty cool element that people aren't used to seeing. And at the end of the day, that's what drone footage is for. It's for showing the viewer something that they're not used to seeing. It's not just your standard holding your phone up at eye level, taking a photo of something that you're used to seeing. It's a different perspective, it's a different angle. And so using this tool to think a little differently rather than just show the same thing but higher is a way to really add value to a project using drone footage. If you've got other shots that you like doing, feel free to throw them in the comments. These are just 5 of my favorites, and there's a bunch more that we may talk about. But when you make your flight plan, maybe include a couple of these if you didn't already. But hopefully it's helpful to you and maybe takes your drone footage up a notch. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye.